Thank you very much, Janet. We are really excited to be talking with you guys this morning, but obviously we want to thank Canada for giving Vish and I this opportunity to speak with you today. The art and science of data is something very, very, very important to Vish and I. We kind of go back, way back, and with the CMA through different councils. And it was 4 years ago where we launched Hawkeye, the CRM practice for publicists, that we really kind of came together. So we got to bring these two worlds together, and we hope that we're going to inspire you. Hopefully you'll hear things that are a bit differently than you've heard before, and we'll go from there. You want to add anything?
Yeah, I think, Scott and I, like he says, we go way back, and we've probably sat through the art and science presentations many times before, and I'm sure you guys have, some of you might have as well. Hopefully we make a difference today in terms of what you learn, and possibly take that back to your organizations and bring some semblance of evolution to your own organization based on what you see today. So our objective is to help you understand how to bring this to life.
We truly believe that it's an incredible time to be in the direct marketing space. Data is allowing us to do things that we just couldn't do before. And we truly believe if you embrace it, if you really take it in, the idea of the art and science, that you can really transform every aspect from planning to executing, and especially from a partner standpoint, whether you're a service solution provider, the role that technology is playing. Everybody in this room has that opportunity to really move forward and take all their marketing communications for your customers to the next level. I got the opportunity, as you heard, to start my career at Ogilvy and Mather Direct. I came out of school, I knew nothing about direct marketing. But I remember walking into the agency in New York, and on the wall was, "We sell or else." And David Ogilvy was a proponent of direct response. He always referred to it as his secret weapon because he talked about the ability to be able to track, identify, but more importantly, to measure. But he also said something else very important. He truly believed that general advertising and direct response were on a collision course. He said that 50 years ago. Jump forward today, and that collision is happening right now. We see transformations happening in the agencies with media companies. Media companies are buying up smaller data shops. The world is changing, and we have to adapt to be able to keep up, because the way data is coming in, if we don't understand it, if we don't embrace it, if we don't harness it, we're not going to be successful. We're not going to move our clients to the next level. So the opportunity to connect, we believe right now, whether you call yourself a direct response agency or a brand response agency or a CRM agency or a customer engagement agency, one thing still holds true. It's about the right person, right message, right time, and very important today is the right channel. Because as we know, there are way more channels than there were 10, 15, 20 years ago. And all those channels are giving us opportunities to make those deeper and more relevant communication connections. I'm going to share with you a video. This was a video that was produced by the Direct Marketing Association in the US. It was done about 3 years ago when they changed their name from the DMA to the Data and Marketing Association. And why we love this video is it really tells this story. The heritage about data was at the core of direct marketing. And now today, we're ready to capitalize on it in ways that we never even thought about.
He's never read a newspaper, and never will. She'll never drive a car. It will drive her. She'll make her first camera with a 3D printer. She'll think Snapchat is for old people. Imagine the world in 20 years. How will businesses reach people? What will consumers want? How will companies tell a cohesive story across limitless channels? It all comes down to one fundamental thing: data. For 100 years, it's been our secret weapon, helping us connect people to products that made life easier and inspired generations. From the beginning, we've known it's not just about channels, it's about insights. It's understanding what's truly important to people that lets you connect the dots when most don't even see dots. And no matter what the future brings, this simple belief will remain. Whoever understands people the best wins.
So what a powerful line. Whoever understands people the best wins. We're the people. We have to be able to understand it. We have to be able to embrace it. Whether we're on the art side, another great quote by the General Marketing Officer for Marriott: if you're an artist, you need to learn science. If you're a scientist, you need to cultivate art. That's the only way we, as marketers, are going to be successful in this new world of transformation that we're dealing with today. We need to recognize the power of data. Oftentimes you can be in meetings and people talk about, well, what does data mean? Well, it means insights. It means so much more. Data should be informing, uncovering, and inspire us in every aspect of any marketing communications that we create. It helps us with consumer insights, messaging, format, what design should we be using, what content should we be serving up, and on what channel should we be serving it up, models, targeting, segments. Data is important at every single aspect, and if we don't harness it, if we don't understand it, it's the difference between success and the difference between failure. But we live in a complex world, right? When you think about data, where we're able to capture data from, we're print, video, direct mail, experiential, digital. Data's coming in us at all these different aspects at a speed that we can't even keep up with. There's so many channels. How do you decide which channels to use, which ones not to use, which data to listen to, and what data not to listen to? Great stat, 90% of all data that exists today originated just in the past 2 years, and that's going to continue to increase. Another quote from Forbes, connected smart devices, now when I was talking smartphones, we're talking about any device that captures data, whether it be minute or huge global systems. Connected smart devices that interact with each other and us while collaborating all kinds of data is exploding from 2 billion devices in 2006 to a projected 200 billion by 2020. And it's one of the primary drivers for our data vaults exploding as well. So while that's an incredible opportunity, it's also very challenging. How do you manage it all? How do you make educated decisions about what to do next?
Anybody familiar with Moore's Law? It says that capacitors or transistors in the circuit will double their capacity every 2 years. And we're seeing this with data. So that's happening right now, right in front of us. And we also see technology doing the same thing. Technology and its speed to market to bring things to life is doubling almost every 2 years.
We were at a Vision and we're actually thinking outside the box doing a panel. And there was a CMO in the room, there's a creative strategist in the room, there was a creative director, and there was Vish. And we were talking about all of this data. And there's a lot of confusion about, okay, where do you start? And I made the reference that data's like the grains of sand on the beach.
Unscripted, by the way. He didn't prep me for this question.
Everything else was scripted, by the way, except this typical creative person where I got to change things up on them. And I said, so Vish, data's like the grains of sand on the beach. Where do you start? And he said, you follow the footprints. And that's the consumer. And it makes so much sense. And what's powerful is when you follow the footprints, it gives you the opportunity to understand who you're talking to. What should you be serving up? What particular brand message, which content should you be serving up to the individual? Also, why? Why is it? Where are they in the customer journey? What's sparking the particular triggered marketing communication that you want to make? And very important is where? What channel should we be using? Is it all channels? Is it one? Is it two? Well, data plays a role. Also key too is you can have the same customer going to for the same product. While their destination is the same, the journey in which they get there is completely different. So each of these circles marks a particular time in which the consumer was interacting with the brand. Now you can have 3 consumers here. Now they may interact similar ways, but maybe at different times. And what they're looking for may be different. Now you got to times this by 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, depending on the size of your market. The opportunity is here to understand those particular moments when the brand has an opportunity to engage. We refer to it as a relationship moment. A moment between the brand and the consumer in which there's a value exchange to drive action. Or it's a pivotal point along the consumer's journey, the path to purchase, in which data intelligence is used to create a meaningful and relevant brand engagement, and this is a key, that drives action, a measurable action. When you understand those relationship moments, that's where you're going to capitalize, that's where there's a value exchange, and that's where you're going to win. Because the whole point is to keep nudging them along until they make that purchase or walk into your store or have that positive brand experience with you. I'm going to bring this to life. This is actually a video that we put together, a concept to demonstrate how you can put this into action. We're going to have a particular consumer. You're going to get introduced to a family who walks through this particular journey, and how at each particular point, in this particular case, we created this for the Home Depot, we create those relationship moments that drives a positive action and results.
Hi there, I'm Ed, and that's my wife, Sarah. And this is our home. We've put a lot of work into it. I'm no expert, but I'm pretty handy, and Sarah has a real flair for design. This fall, we decided to install a new backsplash. We were hosting a big family dinner at Christmas, so it was a great excuse to freshen up the kitchen. That week, we received a Home Depot flyer showing beautiful kitchen backsplash tiles, and that got us started. First step, find inspiration. Sarah looked for ideas on Pinterest and found this tasteful shot from the Home Depot. It led us to their website where we could get more ideas and check out their tile selection. Fast forward a few days and we see an online video ad for the very project we've been talking about, how to install a backsplash. Looked like something I could do. And then I got an email a few days later. 20% off tiles at Home Depot. Okay, time to get started. I browsed online a while and added some tiles to my cart, but I had to bath the kids, so I didn't quite finish checking out. Just a few days later, I received a direct mail piece reminding me to complete my transaction before the 20% savings expired, so that's what I did. Now, time to get started. I downloaded the Home Depot app to my phone and used it to make a list of tools and other materials we'd need. The app really came in handy at the store. When we got to the tiling aisle, I got a hammer drop alert. A few light shakes of my phone and presto, 10% off tile saws, one aisle over. Awesome. We easily found everything we needed and checked out using my Home Depot card. With everything we needed back at home, it was time to get to work. I watched the how-to video again on my phone and went step by step. A few hours later, it was done. And it looked pretty good, if I do say so myself. Sarah really does have great taste. Then it was time to show off our new backsplash, share the experience, and get a little pat on the back from the Home Depot. They helped us do this on time and on budget, and they had everything we needed, when we needed it. Nice. About a week later, a great offer from the Home Depot showed up in our mailbox. You know, I think I'll soon be seeing my kitchen in a whole new light. Let's do this.
So this is a great example of what's possible. Data, the technology, the people exist today to be able to allow us to deliver this type of true one-to-one engagement. And that experience happens over and over again, and a little differently for each customer. Our opportunity, our job is to make sure that we can deliver it. So that means we got to change things. It needs to change the way we approach the creative process. No longer is it about thinking big campaign. We need to start thinking about the customer first. And how do we actually action it, the work that we have to do, our strategy, our thinking in the right way? And over to Vish.
So technology has really given us this ability and given us the ability to enable these features to truly develop triggered campaigns. So we have to embrace technology from that perspective. In fact, technology combined with data intelligence really allows us to identify the signals to catch, connect, and convert consumers on their path to purchase. This is important because what we're saying invariably is that intelligence is the underpinning for a relationship moment. That moment in time where we've collected enough data on that individual where we can have a meaningful conversation with them, trying to move them along to the next desired spot in their path to purchase. So as we collect the data, we need to also collate that data and drive some intelligence from it in order to have that relationship moment. So where does all this data come from that can give us this intelligence and allow us to communicate effectively with our consumers? Well, they come from everywhere. It's from everything. We have POS data, we have product reviews, mobile app, webs, we have e-com data. It's everywhere. It's coming at us from every angle. And it's very difficult to get to. We have data warehouses where the e-com data is siloed from the POS data, which is siloed from the inventory data. We have walled gardens where we have limited access because it's all behind a firewall or a VPN that gives us a limited ability to get access to that data. And of course, we have data that's just not being used, sitting up in a data lake somewhere. It's unstructured, no one's really tapping into it, but we're storing it. So it's complex. It's very complex. I got bad news for you. It gets worse. There's actually thousands of data platforms out there as well. So which platform is the right platform for our organization, your client's organization? That too in itself is extremely difficult. So what we want to try and do is demystify a lot of this stuff, because if you spend time getting into the weeds with data and looking at all of the technology platforms, it could take you a while. So hopefully we're going to give you a few pointers that you can take away today and implement in your own organizations. First, I want to say...
I was going to say, one of the things we were saying about that last chart is it's already obsolete. By the time we found it and put it in this presentation, it's obsolete. There are new platforms, and probably half of them are obsolete now and don't even exist or aren't even be able to deliver to the value that they were promised. And to Vish's point, oftentimes a lot of our partners have made huge investments in a lot of these platforms, and either they're only using a bit of it or they're not using it at all because they don't understand it.
And I just went backwards. I was trying to go here, but I went forward. All right, okay. So the first thing that we say is stop trying to map the consumer journey. As we saw on that presentation, on that slide that Scott showed us, there were 3 consumers all headed to the same purchase, but taking different paths. I was actually showing this to my dad. He wanted to see, where are you going all over the place presenting? What are you guys doing, right? So we went through this, and he said, I have a real problem with that slide. I don't quite understand it. And I said, well, imagine 3 consumers buying blue paint. One's doing it because they're expecting a baby. The other's doing it because they're looking for an accent wall. And then he volunteered, the third being, because my wife told me to paint the room blue. And I said, okay, sure enough, right? But the way my dad would go about being inspired to look for the right blue paint for that room would be very different from an expecting parent or someone that's looking for an accent wall, right? One's looking for inspiration on the house, for example. One might be stepping into the store like my dad, looking at all of the paint swabs, trying to find the right color, bringing it home, talking to mom, that kind of thing. So, but the point is, these are all collectible data points. If we do our jobs right, that we can use to have effective communications. So don't map the consumer journey as much. What we're saying is, look at the data that you're collecting. What does that data tell you? How can you derive some intelligence from that data to have these relationship moments with your consumers to help them along that path to purchase and get them to that next desired step on their path to purchase? So, how do we get there? How do we get to that point where we're able to collect and infer or listen to that data to drive some action? Well, we're suggesting that you look internally. You start by understanding your internal data maturity index, or that of your clients. So if you're working with clients that have an infrastructure that they allow you into, try and understand their data maturity index. I love this quote that says, you know, we always talk about getting the right message to the right person at the right time, but you first need to get the right data into the right database at the right time. Otherwise, it doesn't really happen, right? So we're going to help you understand the 3 pillars of knowing where your data maturity index today is. And that is, you need to know your people, your process, and your technologies. These are the core pillars to building and understanding where you are with your data maturity index. It's not even. Okay? If anybody's ever been in an RFP process where you have to evaluate a vendor, you probably have some nice-to-haves, must-haves, and the weighting system you use in the evaluation process is not equal. It's the same here. Technology and people should be weighted at 40% each because they're critical to your success. Process at 20. I'm going to talk a little bit more about people. So I say data maturity and people. Most of us start thinking automatically, well, at least I do. Data scientists, data administrators, you know, we need IT folks, we need that type of personnel. But the truth is, you need everyone to have some ability to work with data. If your client services staff is unable to recognize an opportunity when their client gives them a business problem that could be solved with data, that's going to be missed. Scott and I talk about creative all the time, right? And this is why I love Scott as a partner, because, you know, there's no amount. We were having a conversation just last night. He said, why direct response? What made you come into marketing? You're a technologist. And I said, there's only so much math that I can do to bring something to life in terms of predicting a next action. But without the right message or creative or content in front of that person to inspire them to take that next action, I'm dead. So you need creative people. You need creatives that understand data and how to use data to bring creative to life, to be inspired by it.
That means agencies have to transform the way they set up their creative departments. You know, there's a creative director for mass, there's a creative director for social, there's a creative director for direct, there's a creative director for platform. That world has to change. If we're ever going to be able to integrate and truly deliver those one-to-one to the right person messages, how we structure our departments has to be different so that we have that connective tissue. And it's not about matching luggage anymore, it's about the right message to the right person. So the type of writers that we're now hiring right now, we're going through, Brian Kane, our president's here, he's pushing us. We're going through a massive transformation because we can't run our agency, our creative departments the way we used to. Because we need storytellers now, the type of people that we're hiring. We just made a hire for a young designer, and she says, well, I need another week because I'm finishing up my jazz album. But we're hiring editorial writers, content writers, because how we tell our stories is being completely redefined by what the consumers are expecting us to do with the data that they provide us. So we have to look within our organizations, and people are so key to this because we may not have the right people. You know, oftentimes we say, draw the boxes first, figure out what you need, then add in the people. But it means taking a hard look at our organizations and how we're structured if we're truly going to ever deliver against this type of true one-to-one.
The next is process. And yes, when I talk about process, I'm talking about data collection, data cleanliness, master data management, governance, all of those things. Absolutely. But in process as well, this is where your organization should look very hard at your vision and core KPIs, because you need to be able to measure what you're doing. As you're putting a stake in the sand in terms of where you are today as far as your data maturity index is concerned, you want to know if you're moving in the right direction. And to do that, you need to have the right KPIs in place to understand whether or not your organization is taking the right steps to get to where you truly want to be, which is one-to-one communications. Technology, of course, yeah, well, access to hardware and software, imperative, right? Without the right technology and right technological foundation in place, you're not going to get there. Right? One of the key things that I say about technology specifically is that as you choose your technology platforms, you want it to be open-ended. You want it to be able to communicate with multiple platforms. We don't know what's going to come out next month or the month after that or even next year. We can't anticipate that, but if we have the right technology that does two fundamental things. One, has an open architecture so that next new thing we can try to integrate with, or at least have some ease of integration with it. And secondly, scale. Because as you move along your path, in terms of maturing your data maturity index, you'll need to have the right technological foundation that scales with you and your organization as you grow. So, talking about that growth path, what we recommend doing is taking an evolutionary approach at this, right? So it's sort of a crawl, walk, run, nothing, nothing too fancy, nothing too crazy. It's pretty simple. If you look at this slide, we're saying in our evolutionary approach, there's basically 5 stages. And I'll spend a little bit of time on this slide. I'd like everyone actually to take a look at these stages and ask yourself, do you see yourself in stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, stage 5, or that of your clients? They're somewhere in here, right? They're either doing one-to-all, which is basically static-based campaigns. Everyone's receiving the same message, maybe over the same medium, all at the same time. And then we get into more rule-based campaigns where we have maybe some customer segments and we're talking differently to these segments. And then we have model-based campaigns where we're actually using some predictive models and creating a segment, or what I call a logical segment versus a physical segment. And then we get up into integrated transactions where we do have some automation and doing some one-to-one, and then fully orchestrated trigger-based campaigns that are truly one-to-one across all channels.
If you think about the Home Depot video, that's a 5. And there's also another key thing about this. If you're 4, but your client's a 1, you're a 1, and vice versa. If your client's a 4, but you're a 2, you're a 2. The 2 have to come together if you're ever going to deliver against any one of these key stages.
It's kind of like the days of dial-up modems, right? You're only as fast as the slowest modem, right? But the one nice thing about this is it's really important to ensure that you have the right technological foundation as you step into stages 2 and 3. And that's going back to that ability for scale and to be open architecture. If you don't have, as you move from campaign management to decision management, if you don't have the right technology in place, you are going to fail. So I'm going to take a closer look at these stages and talk about what we consider to be stage one, which is one-to-all. It's a static-based campaign, no real integration with other channels. Each channel stands on their own. There's no real use of data to create segments, so we're not communicating differently to different folks. And there's no real method of measuring success beyond simple engagement metrics. And for illustrative purposes, your people might be a medium. In other words, some might get data, some don't. Your processes are not necessarily in place, and your technology is not there. Now, having said that, I've actually seen the opposite. I've seen some of our clients actually have really good technology, right? So they're green over in technology, but they're red over in people and process, and they're just not using their technology to the best of their abilities. And I say this all the time. How many of us have Excel? Show of hands. All right. How many of you has ever done regression analysis on Excel? Standard deviation model? No? All right.
There you go. You got a hand over here, Bishop.
Okay. Really?
Yeah.
We should talk. Okay, so, but that's my point, right? Excel is an extremely powerful tool, but as business people, we probably tap into about 5% of its capabilities. It's no different with technology platforms, marketing technology platforms. Stages 2 and 3, well, we have some customer segments. We can develop messaging to those segments, so it's sort of one-to-many there. We can introduce models like predictive models, maybe churn models, so that we're communicating a very specific message to those individuals. So we can say, hey, next best product, or here's what we think you're going to do next. Even from a churn perspective, we can try and mitigate that churn by talking to you in a way that keeps you engaged with the brand. For sure, we're doing some channel integration here, or in multiple channels, might be doing a DM piece followed up with an email or vice versa, or might be on social as well. We're using some data to create targeted segments for sure. That's the data sets that we're also using for our models. And of course, from a measurement perspective, we do have some standard engagement, but we have some limited ability to tie some conversion and cross-channel attribution. Not totally there yet, but we are able to do some attribution.
You're starting to see the creatives start to take on different forms across the different channels at this point right now, because we can make informed decisions about what messaging we should be using.
Right, and our people, we might have the right people in place, but we still are working through our process and technology. And this is where it's really important to make sure that you line up your technology before you move into stages 4 and 5. So stages 4 and 5 is really about integrated interactions. This is where we're one-to-one, but we're still initiating these communication pieces, right? Whether it's automated to some form or fashion, they're still fairly automated. In a fully orchestrated world, the decisioning is being done on the fly. So as someone comes to your site and they do a high-value task, we automatically score that record and choose the channels we want to retarget them on to bring them along to that next path to purchase. Or if someone converts, then we already have a communication package, like a direct mailer you're going to receive to finish the project with the Home Depot case, and all of a sudden you get another offer for lighting, which is a predictive indicator that could be something that they're looking for next. So there's full cross-channel integration. We're targeting segments based on behavior, right? So now we're observing behavior. We have behavioral-based models that are running, and based on your exhibited behavior, now we're communicating to you. We have fully integrated engagement metrics tied to conversion and full cross-channel attribution. So now we can understand which channels work best based on our communication strategy. More importantly, this is where I start to talk about customer lifetime value and understanding the values of your customers in these segments, because you would be willing to spend more on other channels if you know this person is a high-value target and or customer. So where do you start? Well, Scott and I, we love this saying. We say, think big, start small. I don't think we invented that. We might have saw it somewhere, but yeah, I'm surprised it's not trademarked. If it was, then we would have done it. Scott's the master of trademarking. But think big, start small, for sure, right? So we definitely want to understand where our organizations want to go, how we want to get to one-to-one, And that's thinking big. You need to think big.
But even when you think about the role of your people, about thinking big, starting small right now, and that's where you got to really sit down and have those hard discussions about, do we have the right people that are also visionary, that understand? You know, one of the things with the way we're building out our creative department is you have to have a passion for data. You have to have a passion for insights. Oftentimes we give, oftentimes I'll talk with my art directors and I'll ask them, well, that's a great image, but why? Why that image? Why are they that age? Why do they have a child? Why are they wearing those clothing? Those little slight things can make a huge difference. For those who were born in direct marketing, we know you change one line, one subject line, that can be the difference between a 2% and a 10% response rates. So all of those decisions that we're making need to be more informed. But you have to have people that respect that and understand that. So when you think about think big, start small, you have to ask yourself, who are the right people that we need to bring on first to get us to be able to move to the next level?
A key method for success on this as well is to not try to boil the ocean in one go. In French, this does not sound right. I learned that in Montreal. There's something about swallowing the entire ocean in one gulp, and anyways, it didn't go over well.
You get the idea here.
But the idea here is if you try to conceivably map out every plausible interaction that a consumer can have with your brand and your brand assets, and try and develop a methodology to develop relationship moments where you feel you have enough data and intelligence to have a meaningful communication with them, your head's going to explode. It truly will, because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of scenarios. So what we say here is, yes, think big, start small, but don't try and boil the ocean in one go. In fact,
and we love this idea too, solve for one opportunity at a time, which means you got to get in, you got to whiteboard this. What are the right opportunities that are going to allow you? And it has a lot to do with whether you're a media company or, again, if you're a supplier or a premier partner. What's the best opportunity for you within this journey and this path, this transformation to true one-to-one, is where can you play the biggest impact? Look for that opportunity, surround that opportunity, and build on that opportunity. The other thing is, obviously, we always talk about test and learn, and build off those opportunities. You're not going to get it right. That's why I go think big. Don't make massive investments too fast. Prove it out first. Start with your people. Think about your technology, because you're going to have investments. Are we getting the most? The Excel example is so perfect, because you actually might have a technology stack that's capable of doing way more. We know with a lot of our clients, right? They all jumped on the Adobe cloud, but they're not using Adobe for what it can do. Well, that's the role of their partners, our clients' partners, people in this room, to be able to help our clients understand how they can find those opportunities and identify them. But that means you have to have the right conversations. And then, guys, keep building on those opportunities. Obviously, continue building your maturity index. I think it's a great exercise for everyone to go through to understand, but more importantly, get all the right stakeholders in a room to figure out what is our data maturity index, because you got to get everybody to agree before you can move to the next step, or definitely maximize the step that you're in.
One thing about these opportunities as you go through them, I know we've built our opportunity models before where, and I'm sure you guys have all seen it, right? It's usually 4 quadrants. Top right-hand quadrant says least effort, most reward. Bottom left is most effort, least reward, right? So in terms of prioritization, right, or if you have a prioritization model, you could use that as well. As you identify business problems, really it's go after the ones that are going to give you the highest return on investment for the least amount of time and effort, right? So where you make the least changes in your organizations and you get the biggest return, focus there. I mean, what do we say? It's like, low-hanging fruit, all that stuff, right? But be organized with this. Understand those opportunities and start building on them one by one, but go after the ones that will give you the biggest return for the least investment. And that's how you prove to the organization, by the way, that this is the right thing for us. So as you move and improve your data maturity index and align yourself with the right technology, people, and processes, you can actually prove that it's doing the right thing for your organization or that of your client.
So bringing it back home, we truly believe art by itself can't solve it, and obviously data by itself can't solve it. It's really the two coming together and embracing how they work hand in hand. It's the art and the science of data that will have the greatest impact on your marketing communication, and it's a different way of looking at it. Again, we start off by saying you've been at these presentations before, but you need to think about art differently. You need to think about science differently. You can't have one without the other. And we're big on quotes. We love this one by the Harvard Business Review. To innovate for a future in which consumers' desires and habits change as quickly as their mobile devices, businesses must be nimble in delivering emotional connections beyond just functional utility. That requires understanding customers as people, nuanced, dynamic, and unpredictable, not just a collection of data. We find that exciting, we find that fun, and we find that truly inspiring because there's so much opportunity for all of us in this room to really deliver the true type of communications that we know is capable. It's not going to be an easy road getting there, but if we get the right people in the room, we can definitely achieve it. And we will bring it home with these last 5 kind of key points in summary. Then we'll open up for questions.
Be remiss without having takeaways or key takeaways, right? That's, but yeah, no, so for starters, we're suggesting that you don't map the consumer journey, map the data that's coming in to feed into that journey. Stop creating for campaigns, right? We've all received that brief that says we're targeting females 16 to 65 that live in Canada, right? Let's be a little bit more specific with that. Let's start mapping the data that's associated with those and move away from campaign thinking and start thinking content thinking based on the data points we collect. Understand your data maturity index, right? Know exactly where the opportunities are within your own organizations to move the needle in the right direction to get to the true one-to-one communication strategies for yourselves and also for your customers. Map your own evolutionary approach, right? This is what we showed you today is sort of a boilerplate overview of where we feel there are 5 stages, but you might find yourself somewhere else. You might find yourself in between a couple. You might find yourself better at doing one channel than doing another. This is an opportunity for you to map your own evolutionary approach to get to true one-to-one. And of course, solve for one opportunity at a time. Think of that priority matrix, right? Look for the right opportunity that you feel is best for your organization or that of your clients. Solve for that, and never ever stop thinking big, but start small.
Thank you very much.
Questions? One at the back.
Yeah, Home Depot is a great example. Is Publicis involved with Home Depot at all, or is that something full wild world of marketing?
Yes, we had a relationship with the Home Depot, and part of our evolutionary journey with them was getting to that point right now. But this is actually something that we had put together as we were helping them move forward their data maturity index as well. And this is the type of thinking that we're bringing to our new clients. We're no longer partners with them right now, but that was put together when we were working with them to help them, nudge them along to get them through this true type of one-to-one.
They do a great job. They do a great job. Home Depot, they do a great job.
Yeah. They have, again, that comes back to making a commitment to, we find with the clients that we have that have a true commitment to data, our clients are never lacking in data. It's, to Vish's point, it's just lacking access to the right data and then being able to share it with their partners like agencies so that we can actually action it. And that continues to be a challenge for us as we bring on new clients to help them with that. But again, that goes back to you have to be at the right stage. Your agency and your partners all have to be at the right stage.
You mentioned scale, and clearly the scale of the Home Depot and that fully orchestrated video. But dealing with small, medium-sized enterprises, medium-sized businesses, not enterprise or national accounts, I feel it is possible. But can you get comments on scaling that towards that kind of range?
Yeah, it's.
Sorry, we can't hear the question.
Okay, so the question was about scale for small and medium-sized businesses. I believe for larger organizations like Home Depot, that's an easier path to take than I'm implying smaller businesses with limited budgets and so on. Is that correct?
Yeah, scale for what they could afford.
Right.
But I envision that there's a path there. I love the idea of the concept, so it's just maybe a comment on
Yeah.
thoughts on that.
So, do you remember that slide with 1,000 or so technology platforms that are there? So there's 2 things that are constant, regardless of if you're a Home Depot or a small to medium-sized business. And that is your people and your process, right? You still need the right people. You still need the right processes that are in place, but your technology can change drastically. So instead of tier 1 technology platforms that are expensive to implement, you can look at tier 2 or tier 3 technology platforms that allow you to scale. And let me explain what I mean by scale. We were working with a restaurant, casual dining restaurant out of the US that wanted to launch a loyalty program. Now, they were dipping their toes into this. They went about this in a very fiscally responsible way by hiring an organization to come in and do a financial model to prove that bringing in a loyalty business into the restaurant is actually going to be fruitful for them in the long term and not actually hurt them. So once that model was created, we designed and aligned ourselves with the right technology platforms that allowed them to test this in 3 states. So they can actually see, hey, our wait time's going up because people are eating more because they're getting a free app now. Are we not turning tables fast enough? Are check sizes coming down because of the discounting and so on? So that was done, fine. But the scale that I'm talking about was when we went national, we did absolutely nothing except offer it nationally. That's it. So the app, instead of being able to download in those 3 states, was now available in all 50 states, or 52. What's Hawaii? Anyways, Puerto Rico a state?
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyways, so in all 50 states, but we absolutely did nothing. All we did was turn that on the App Store and Google Play. The scale that I'm talking about is that technology layer that was seamless. We didn't have to ramp up or buy more disk space or do any of that stuff. The emails that are automated on the back end, the engagement metrics, all of those things just scaled, right? So that's what I'm talking about. So, and you can find the right platforms. I truly believe that small to medium-sized businesses can align themselves with the right platforms. There's also software as service now, right? So there are a lot of organizations out there where you can lease your pay-as-you-use kind of thing, right? So you can lease your space, you can lease your service. Therefore, you're not necessarily emptying the bank account or having a huge capital expenditure to get into this type of marketing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Yeah?
You talked a lot about scaling up your team and a little bit about kind of hiring the creative side of the data. But I'm interested actually on if you're an organization or an agency who is new to kind of collecting and analyzing and building that infrastructure to actually handle this. This is going to be a lot of infrastructure. Do you have any kind of suggestions on what are those first key people as you're building out kind of that, we call that data support team, that data analysis team, that you say that's really where you should be starting from a hiring or a building of a team standpoint?
So I have a really different point of view on that.
Okay, perfect.
Hopefully it's one that will make sense. So the question was, how do you start with the hiring of the people within your organization?
Intelligence piece.
Right, as you're trying to push through with the intelligence piece and making sense out of data. I would say you need to start with your client services, which is kind of an odd thing to say, right? But the reality is our client services staff need to identify opportunities with our clients. So if you are a marketing services provider or an agency, then you need to understand and ensure that your front line can identify these opportunities with your clients. They might be talking about a business problem, which they invariably will, but your client services staff has to be able to say, well, wait a second, I can solve that with data, right? If we had the right access to data, we can start there. So it's about being able to identify those opportunities. I'm a strong proponent for, let's understand the problem and then solve for it, as opposed to having a solution looking for a problem. Does that make sense? So once I would start there, but definitely as you get into that, you'll need to understand the ecosystem of your clients and their data and what access you have to that data, and then start hiring the right data people for that. IT can play a pivotal role with this for you as well, because they're already there, but you need to bring them into the business. Whereas they're very operationally focused now, you need to bring them into solving business problems for the marketing team. So I would leverage IT and then bring in the right data analysts, and depending on the level of sophistication that you're looking at, maybe data scientists as well, right? But I always say, first identify the opportunity, and to be able to do that, you need the right front line, the folks that are at the front that can understand a business problem and interpret that into a technical solution that is data and or creative based.
I was going to say, again, piece we don't dive into is obviously the role of strategy. So, the way we're designed is, there's content strategists, there's CRM strategists. They need to be able to understand all of this, or none of this falls apart, because they're the front line to the client. So, your client services team needs to be able to recognize when you're meeting with a client, they start talking about a business challenge, like, we're not one-to-one. You got to be able to understand how does strategy play a role to be able to deliver. So you need to understand what data should I be using. Then the people underneath it, which will be your technologists and your data analysts, they will come in. But they need to know, they're only as good, and we have a great team here. They always say, what are you trying to solve for? But they need that, and that usually comes from a strategy. So I think that's a great insight about your account services team. Your lead strategist needs to be able to understand true one-to-one, understand what's possible, to be able to tie all those other pieces together that sit down, people, process, and technology.